Have you ever stopped to think about what a single day can tell us about the state of our world? Well, today, we're going to freeze time on one specific day, April 18th, 2026, to see just how a massive peace deal, a financial freakout, and a huge scientific breakthrough are all tangled up in one big global story.
It's a pretty big question, right? But on this particular day, a series of dominoes started to fall that sent ripples across entire continents and markets. So let's dive in and see how it all kicked off.
Our story starts where so many global tensions seem to converge, the Middle East. But the big headline on this day wasn't about conflict. No, it was a diplomatic earthquake that, seriously, almost nobody saw coming.
I mean, think about it. After decades of tension, of failed negotiations, just constant friction, bam! The bombshell drops. Iran agrees to suspend its nuclear program indefinitely. This one announcement, you have to understand, is the key that unlocks literally everything else that happens on this day.
But what really made this announcement unforgettable was this. Well, bizarre and incredibly vivid detail from President Trump. He actually talked about sending in excavators to retrieve all nuclear dust. It's just such a strange, almost cinematic quote to attach to such a massive geopolitical shift.
And man, those dominoes fell fast. The nuclear deal, it was directly tied to a ceasefire in Lebanon, and that in turn led to this really crucial third step. Iran declared the Strait of Hormuz, that vital artery for global oil, was completely open for business again after all that tension and the blockades.
Okay, so a deal this big is never just about politics, right? The moment the news broke, you can just imagine what happened. Financial markets all over the world started to react, sending these powerful shockwaves all through the global economy.
The immediate reaction was actually pretty positive. With the Strait of Hormuz open again, all those fears of a long-term energy crisis just evaporated. And as a result, global energy futures took a nosedive. You could practically hear the huge sigh of relief from the markets.
But here's the twist, because it's never that simple, is it? While the world was celebrating cheaper gas, finance ministers over in Southeast Asia were sounding an alarm. They warned that these same complex forces were actually driving up the price of food. It's a perfect example of how in our global economy, sometimes solving one problem just creates another one.
And get this, while the whole world was obsessed with oil prices, the top financial leaders were meeting to tackle threats coming from a totally different direction. They were worried about the shadow banking system and the whole wild west of digital currencies. It's just a striking reminder that while you're busy putting out one big fire, there are always a few others smoldering.
All right, let's shift gears now. Because on the very same day, the world of technology and digital policy was having its own huge moments. It was kind of like a parallel universe of headlines was unfolding at the exact same time. And this just brilliantly illustrates two totally clashing philosophies. In the US, regulators gave a national charter to Coinbase, a huge step toward bringing crypto into the traditional banking system. Meanwhile, over in France, their intelligence agency was warning companies against using foreign software, trying to protect their own domestic industry. So just think about that. You've got two of the world's closest allies, and they're taking fundamentally opposite paths. The US is building bridges to the new world of crypto, while France is basically pulling up the drawbridge to protect its own tech. It's a fascinating glimpse into two competing visions for the future. And this is where our two stories just crash right into each other. Iran, now in control of that reopened strait, started demanding tolls from passing ships, but they wanted to be paid in cryptocurrency. It was such an audacious move, using the very technology the West was debating to sidestep the very sanctions it had imposed. But away from all the political chess and the market volatility, another, much quieter story of progress was unfolding. On that same day, the Oscars of science were being awarded for these absolutely breathtaking advances. We're talking about gene therapy to cure blindness and sickle cell disease. It's just a vital reminder that while nations maneuver, human ingenuity just keeps pushing us all forward.
But for all the progress, for all the diplomatic breakthroughs, on April 18th, it's so critical to remember that this exact same day was also marked by deep, ongoing suffering and unresolved violence all across the world.
Because for every headline about peace, there were shadows of ongoing war. As diplomats were celebrating the Iran deal, Sudan's brutal civil war was entering its fourth year, Kiev was reeling from a mass shooting, and the crisis in Gaza showed absolutely no signs of ending. The very same 24 hours can contain both breakthrough and breakdown. And let's put a face on that suffering. In Kiev, a shooter murdered 6 people and injured 15 others, including a child.
It's a devastating reminder that while leaders are signing deals, the human cost of violence continues, minute by minute.
And the dangers for those just trying to help were just starkly clear. UNICEF had to condemn the killing of 2 of its drivers in Gaza. And their job? They were simply delivering clean water. It's just a heartbreaking illustration of the insane risks humanitarian workers face in conflict zones.
And finally, the U.S. itself was playing on multiple chessboards at once. While trying to broker peace in one corner of the world, it was applying pressure in others, sanctioning figures in Iraq and Sudan, navigating stalled talks with Hamas. It's a portrait of a superpower just stretched thin, trying to manage a dozen crises simultaneously.
So, that brings us right back to our original question. A landmark deal is signed, but wars rage on. Science leaps forward, but people still suffer. When you look at all the pieces of a single day, what does it truly tell us about the state of our world? Is it a sign of real progress, or are these big headlines just a distraction from deeper, unresolved problems? That's definitely something to think about.